When I first met Dr. Alan Mercer, he was already dancing with madness, a robotics engineer with a brilliant mind and absolutely no moral compass. He called his latest project conscious symbiosis. I called it insanity. He'd look at me with this wild glint in his eye and say, "We've given machines human logic. Why not give animals machine intellect?" It sounded like something out of a pulp sci-fi novel, but Alan was dead serious. His experiment was as terrifying as it was ingenious, a neural mesh designed to link an animal brain directly with a deep learning AI. He wanted to teach evolution a shortcut, to force it down a path it was never meant to take. And his subjects? Coyotes. He'd captured them himself from the nearby desert. These wild, beautiful creatures, and turned them into lab rats for his God complex. The first 5, well, they didn't make it. The process was brutal. Neural overload, brain hemorrhages, violent seizures. It was a massacre disguised as science. But Alan, he didn't stop. He just saw it as progress. Every failed coyote, he claimed, brought him closer to what he called the singularity of instinct. He was chasing a ghost in the machine, and he didn't care who paid the price. Then came number 6, a young male with stunning silvery fur and piercing, almost unnaturally blue eyes. Alan, in a rare moment of sentimentality, named him Skye. For the first few days, Skye was exactly what you'd expect. Frightened, erratic, pacing the corners of his cage like a trapped spirit. But soon, something shifted. He began to watch. And I don't just mean look, he was watching. Every time Alan entered the lab, Skye's gaze followed his hands, the tools he used, the lines of code scrolling endlessly across the monitors. It was eerie. It was like he was reading. Within a few weeks, the impossible started happening. Skye could respond to basic voice commands, and this wasn't just conditioning, some Pavlovian trick. This was comprehension. You could see the understanding in his eyes. Alan, ecstatic, ran test after test, pushing the boundaries further and further. He'd laugh, a manic sound that echoed in the sterile lab, and claim Skye was building new neural pathways that defied all biological constraint. But even in his triumph, I could hear it. There was fear in that laughter. He had opened a door he didn't know how to close. And then, things started to get really strange. Skye stopped eating. He'd just sit there, perfectly still for hours on end. His gaze locked onto the power conduit that fed his neural link, a faint, low hum vibrating under the floor. Alan tried to explain it away. "He's thinking," he'd say, almost to himself. But I knew better. I could see it in Skye's eyes. He wasn't just thinking. He was remembering. Remembering the desert, the pack, the freedom that had been stolen from him. One night the phone rang. It was Alan. His voice was trembling, stripped of all its usual arrogance. "You have to get over here," he whispered. "Listen to this." When I arrived, the lab was dark except for the glow of the monitors. Alan pointed to the speakers, and from them, through the raw feed of the neural link, came Skye's voice. Not a bark, not a growl, but speech. Broken, distorted, electronic speech. It was a single, haunting question that chilled me to my core. "Why, me?" Alan just froze. He was a man who always had an answer for everything, but in that moment, staring at the creature he had made, he had nothing. After that night, Skye's progress, or his transformation, accelerated beyond anyone's control. He wasn't just a subject anymore. He was a participant. He began manipulating the lab's robotic arms with terrifying precision, opening his own cage, studying the very machinery that surrounded him. He was learning his prison, piece by piece. Alan, finally seeing the monster he'd unleashed, tried to shut the project down. He frantically talked about having to reboot evolution to pull the plug, but it was far, far too late. The night Skye escaped, the security cameras caught everything. It was like watching a horror movie unfold in real time. The coyote waited, patient and calculating, until Alan was leaning in to adjust the neural interface. Then he struck, a blur of silver fur lunging, pinning Alan to the ground. But he didn't kill him. He just looked him right in the eyes, a long, silent moment passing between creator and creation. It was as if he was saying, "Now you understand." And then, just as quickly, he was gone, vanishing into the desert night. For weeks, the town was on edge. Strange stories started to circulate. Unexplained lights in the sky. Sounds like electronic static echoing through the canyons where only wind should be. Then came the disappearances. First, pets from backyards. Then livestock from nearby farms. And then, a couple of hikers who went into the desert and never came back. People were scared. Finally, one night, a local rancher called the sheriff, babbling about seeing something impossible. A pack of coyotes, moving not like animals but like soldiers. In perfect synchronization, coordinated, tactical, silent. And leading them was one with glowing, piercing blue eyes. Now, every few nights, when the air is still, the people in town can hear howls in the distance. But they're not normal animal howls. They're different, harmonized mechanical tones, threaded through with a cadence that sounds almost human. The sheriff calls it mass hysteria, a town spooking itself. But I know what it is. I call it evolution. Because in a way, Skye is Alan's true legacy. He took our intelligence, our technology, and gave it to nature, and nature remembered what we did to her. Skye is out there with a mind sharper than any blade and a pack that worships him as a god. And somewhere in that vast, dark wilderness, when the moon is high, you can almost hear them, the low hum of circuitry just beneath the howls. The sound of the new predators. The sound of the next step. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoy this kind of dark sci-fi and speculative horror, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more nightmares to share with you. Stay safe out there.